How do you know if your idea is good enough to become a digital product? After all, isn't there tons of people right now online already selling the idea that you want to sell? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you why, first and foremost, that's not a bad thing. A really smart place for you to start is figuring out if your product will actually sell before you create it. We call this the validation process. So this is how you validate your offer step by step so that you can find out if it will sell before you create it. Now, the first step in the process is to inventory your core skills and strengths. What do you do well? What do people come to you to ask advice for? And remember, this can be both formal and informal. We have people in the Digital Course Launchers Academy who are great at coding, but they're also great cooks. And you may be similar. You may have 3 or 4 different things that you can list here. The key is to stay laser focused on the one thing that really matters to you, because you want to talk to one person in one audience and present one offer to that individual. So once you've figured out the big overarching topic that you want to tackle, next you have to reflect on your specific unique experiences with that topic. This one principle alone is where most people get stuck and they generally skip it, but it's the one thing that sets you apart in the industry. I mentioned earlier that if there were other people who already had a market and already had a product to market for what you're trying to sell, that was actually a good thing. And that may be kind of hard to believe, but when you think about it, how many cookbooks have sold over the last 100 years? I would guarantee there was a whole lot of them, but that doesn't mean that someone couldn't have just created another cookbook a month ago and it became a bestseller right away. Next, we want to spot real market needs. So now that you picked your overall broad niche and you thought about your experience with that particular niche, we want to figure out exactly what the market is struggling with that you can help with. Don't forget, when we're creating digital products, our superpower when we're putting them to market is making sure that our product is the answer to the problem that your particular industry is having right now. So we have to spot these real market needs first off and make sure that they're accurate enough so that when we're writing our copy to get people interested in what it is that we have to offer, that we know exactly what language to use and how to speak to those people in a way that allows us to communicate effectively. All right, Anthony, that's great, but how do I position my new digital product as the perfect solution for the problem that these people are clearly suffering through? And that's a really good question, and it has a really simple answer. All you have to do is brainstorm 3 to 5 different concepts that matches your top strengths with their top pain points. Wherever these 2 things align, that's where all of the gold is. That's the perfect sweet spot that you want to be in when you create this digital product. And the 4 things that we look at this point are, number 1, your effort versus your capacity. How do you love to create? Do you love to talk? Do you love to write? Do you love sitting in front of a camera? You have to figure out exactly what type of content creation feels more natural to you. But on top of that, you have to make sure that it's the form that also communicates the most effectively to your audience. And the second thing, speaking of that, is the speed to market. Which one do you think is going to take longer? For me to leverage AI and create an outline of my recipes and have ChatGPT fill in the blanks and create the images and create the ebook and me get it to market that day, or me going into my fancy kitchen, hiring an entire video production team, having them come in, having them film, having them edit. I mean, it sounds like a headache already, right? When I could have been to market to see if the product worked. So after your effort versus capacity for your content creation process, we also evaluate your speed to market. What can I do to get this to market as fast as possible? Because we're still in the validation stage and I need to figure out if this thing even works. Now, speaking of if it works, the third part of the process is the revenue potential. Now, it doesn't matter how fast I get to market. It doesn't matter what type of product I create if it's just simply not going to sell. That's why we go through our spot the real market need phase so that we can make sure that this is a product that the market even cares about before we create it. Once we figure that part out, we see what everyone else is doing and how much it's selling for. And then we have a few options from that point. We can either price match and we can go in but offer more value with our product. We can go in lower than the competition, which I would never advise, by the way. You have a a unique IP. So that makes your product really, really valuable, whether you know it or not. And I know it's tempting to go in at a lower, but listen, don't do it. Just trust me. And the third option is to come in at a higher price and still try to offer more value at the same time. Okay, Anthony, so how do I do that? Well, we do it by adding bonuses. We do it by having more relevant information, right? More up-to-date techniques. Things are changing really, really fast. So the stuff that's at market right now is probably 5 to 10 years old. And that's a good thing. If people are still buying it, that lets you know that there's probably some unique twists that you can put on top of it to add additional value that gives you additional topics that you can cover that nobody else is covering. Now that brings us to the fourth thing that I told you that I wanted to mention, and that's a passion alignment with your topic and your industry and your niche. Will you be able to stick through and create this digital product, and not just create and sell the digital product, even though it has revenue potential? You still have to figure out if you'll be able to continue to serve your audience in the long run. That's the real key to making all of this stuff work. You want to have longevity, and you want to be able to serve the people who have put their trust and their energy and their effort into your teachings and into your concepts and frameworks and practically your business. And you want to be able to show up for them, not just now, but also in the future. So how passionate are you about the thing that you're doing right now? Because that's the one thing that's going to allow you to stick through the hard parts. And I assure you, none of this stuff is nearly as easy as it sounds. Everything is harder to get off the ground than you think, and everything always takes longer than you think it's going to take. Now it's time to get that thing to market. And we do this through a few simple, really quick and easy tests. First, we validate with a really small group of people that are already in our circle or in our database. So these are past clients that you may have had that may have already purchased from you. Maybe you had offline things going on and you just brought it online. Maybe these people know you from different workshops or different local events or whatever the case may be. This could also be people whose names and contacts are already in your phone. So go through your list of contacts, go through your emails, your old emails, and figure out exactly who may be a good fit for this new product that you have. Go on your social media, go through all of your followers on social media. Hopefully you've already built a small personal brand around the topic that you're creating your digital product about. So reach out to your followers, reach out to your peers and ask for their honest opinion. You can just send them to a landing page that you created that has an outline that's walking them through step by step everything that's inside of the product. You can also analyze similar offers. What are other people doing in the industry to get traffic to their offers? You can sign up to their email list. You can figure out who their audiences are. You can study their pricing. You can look at their reviews. You can figure out ways to spot angles and gaps in the market. But reach out to as many people as possible and get their feedback, because there still may be some things that you left out or some things that you need to tweak or change before you actually want to do a full launch and take this thing to public and get it to the market. All right, so you now have a clear idea and a step-by-step roadmap to validate any idea before you build the full thing and get it to market. So now the only thing left to do is actually start putting it into action. Pick your one topic, take it through the validation phase that we're talking about here in this video. Start gathering your feedback and make sure that your next step is your best step. Marketing Coach Anthony signing out. Talk soon.